Good morning, traders. I'm Dennis Dick.
And I'm Joel Elconin. Welcome to Pre-Market Info.
Market very, very quiet here this morning. We are down a half a point, obviously. With the FOMC meeting, we are stuck. Is this the calm ahead of the storm?
Well, just looking at the market, technically, we matched yesterday's high by a tick, 48.75, 49's been the high. That's a big number on the upside. Coming down, as long as we hold that 41 and a quarter, we're good to go north. But I think I have a feeling what Ben's gonna say today.
What is Ben going to say today? Everybody wants to know what Ben is going to
Well,
say.
they can say they heard it first here on Pre-Market Info. He's going to say, at this time, we have no plans of tapering, but we're going to continue to monitor the data as it comes in, and if necessary, at some time within the next 10 years, we're gonna tape. And also, he's going to say, "See ya." Because he's going to get out of here. Who wants to be, around? He's been in this job too long. Why would he want to be around any longer?
You think he's going to say "see you at the meeting"? I don't think he'll say "see you at the
yeah,
meeting."
he's going to go. He's going to say, "I'm out," is what he's going to do. The guy's done it.
Bernanke out.
Yeah, yep. But
that has been rumored. I don't think he'll say that at the meeting, but I think I totally agree with your first part there, Joel. I think that's exactly what they're going to say, is that exact speech where we're going to continue to monitor the situation, and if necessary, in the next 10 years, we may actually start to use it. I totally agree with you on that. So I think we'll see some movement, but I also think as long as that language doesn't change, I think the market might interpret it as a good signal. Also, just looking at that S&P futures chart, kind of starting to look bullish again, isn't it? You got that whole double bottom thing happening. We broke out there over the 1640. Obviously we know fundamentals, drive the market. So obviously whatever is said in the FOMC meeting will drive the market. But technically speaking, this market's looking like it's setting up to go again.
Well, you should have told our traders that like 2 days ago. Instead, you were lollygagging in Europe. When I was looking after they took out 1,600, I was looking for 1,500, and it's going to 1,700. But we got some other things moving in the market today.
Yeah, we do have some other things moving. Might as well go check out gold here again. Obviously, I've been talking about this, and we both have been saying, I just don't like this chart. I think eventually it is going to break down. It's the slowest breakdown ever, though. just sitting down, hanging out here. We have been hanging out between 1360 and 1400 for the better part of the last 2 weeks. I think we're hanging on a cliff here, though, and if Bernanke doesn't say anything that makes the market nervous, obviously it's going to depend on Bernanke, but this gold could eventually show some more weakness here again. It looks like it's gearing up to sell off.
Well, 1380 was that big support level. It held that for quite a while. It was the 1380 to 1420 range. Took a couple days to chew through that. Got to 1360.20 yesterday. Not quite to that low that we had. I believe it was a few weeks ago. We got down, in the middle of May, we got down to the mid 1350 handle, 1354.40, 56.30. Couldn't quite get there. Getting a little bounce now. I think traders are going to be protecting the low 1360s if we can get back down there again.
Bring up a chart on some of these miners because they are starting to look weak here again. Barrick Gold, ABX, obviously had a breakdown day again there yesterday. Just quiet sell-off here. We've had 6-7 days in a row where they've been selling off the miners, and these things are now only trading, $1 or $2 off of the lows that they made back in April when gold had the big steep sell-off. So concerning here for the miners.
Last 2 times it got up near 22 here. It's almost like a similar chart here. It got up to 22 and change, or 2170, and then had to decline down to the low 18s. Got up to that area again, 2168. You got the same decline. So, just migrating towards that $18 level.
Yeah, you do have good support down there on the Barrick and the $18 level, but concerning here that the miners have been slow drift down. You're bringing up a chart of crude here again. Quiet rally for it yesterday, but it did make a new high once again.
We got up to 99.01 today. We backed off a little bit. We are trading at yesterday's high right now, 98.67. So I'm looking at that as minor support down to the close, which is at 98.44. Below that, we could slide towards the $98 level.
Okay, let's move over to the equities. We had a big gun reported here this morning. FedEx earnings 213 versus estimates of 197. Revenues in line. The news algo loved it. Bring up that pre-market chart. The news algo just loved this because right as the news broke at 8:30.00, they bought that stock up over 103.50. What are they doing, man? Who is running that program to buy that stock up that high? Immediately trades back down. Like, I mean, a $4 rally for FedEx, it's got to really blow everything away. And they came in line on revenue. Their guidance was light. They did beat on earnings, so it really didn't look that great to me. It obviously kept drifting down, drifting down. Now we are trading down on FedEx at $99, so it's actually down 50 cents, but we've had a hell of a range here, over 5-point range here in the pre-market.
Yeah, 103.89, and just, to point out when we talk about this pre-market activity, it might be good to, try and liquidate a long position in something like this. Obviously, if you were trying to short this at, any of these levels, 102, 102 and a half, 103, I mean, unless you had, a little bit of gumption to stay with it, taking heat. And, I know traders don't like to take heat, so exiting this would have been a good idea now afterwards, but now you just got to go to the daily here and try and find some support in this thing. We are trading above yesterday's low, 98.24. I would keep an eye on that all the way down to the $98 level. 98 is just a soft number. 97.68 was the low on Monday. Coming back on the upside after that wild range here in the pre-market, getting back into the 100 handle. You had three highs between 120, 175, so I think the resistance will start to thicken up there.
Bring up the chart of Lazy Boy from last night. They reported earnings 33 cents versus 28. 359 million versus 357 million. And if you bring up the pre-market chart there, Joel, the news algo went crazy again on this thing. Bought the stock actually right after the report. And I think it wasn't just the news algo. There was actually quite a few trades. Like with the FedEx, it was only just one shot, basically just trading up there. But it traded up there for quite a while. Lazy Boy was trading higher. Trade up over 21.40 on that earnings report. So it had the big run yesterday into the earnings report and then got another $1.50 basically after hours, or $1.30 after hours. It's given all of that back here and actually it's offered down here this morning.
Yep, 21.50 was what we hit in the pre-market. We've crashed down under, after hours. Always correct me. Thank you, Dennis. We hit 19.50. Looking at yesterday's range. Big one, 19.23 to 20.36. I'd use that $20 level now as resistance up to 20.36. The lows, you've had, double bottom 18.81, 18.91. So that's going to be excellent support just above the $19 level. But, I mentioned yesterday that Lazy Boy from my hometown of Monroe, Michigan, I was actually on the swim team with the grandson of the founder of Lazy Boy, Chucky Knabush. Chuck, if you're listening, hello out there.
Really?
Yep.
So, Lazy Boy. Adobe here, Joel. Sorry about that. Adobe reported earnings here as well. 36 cents versus 34. $1.01 versus $1.01 on or 1.01 billion versus 1 on the revenue. So they came in line on the revenue, beat earnings by 2 cents. Bank of America actually upgrading the stock here this morning, which is giving it a little bit more of a lift. But this stock was one that gapped up, and now it's continuing to run. So
it's holding it.
Anything back. Yeah, and it's up over almost $3 here now.
It's amazing, a company that I never paid anything for any of their products. Continue to do well. 46.57 we've hit in the pre-market, but really not getting a pullback off that number. Haven't even dipped under 46 since we hit that level. So keep an eye. 46 is minor support. 46.57 the high in the pre-market. I don't think. The daily here looks interesting, Dennis. Really don't.
Does.
Yeah. Look at that. 46.
I like that double top.
Well,
like
two levels.
47.
Yeah, 46.68 we hit on May 7th, and then the double top at 47.14 to 17. So, got a couple parameters up there on the upside to take a look at. But just the way this thing is rallied in the pre-market, and now it's just holding it. It's not giving it back. Makes me a little less inclined to short it off the open.
I want to talk about some of these mortgage REITs. AGNC, which is one of those, basically the mortgage REITs we've been talking about them a bit on the show, they have been absolutely killed over the course of the last month with the concerns with interest rates, the tapering that might happen. That really affects these companies because they borrow short and they invest long. So as if short-term rates come up, they get squeezed. And I think they are seeing that a little bit because AGNC actually did cut the dividend last night, the quarterly dividend from $1.25 down to $1.05, but you can see how these things basically maybe have been pricing in a bigger dividend cut because on that news, believe it or not, they cut the dividend, the stock rallies off of that. So people were probably thinking that they were actually going to cut it more, and they didn't cut it as much as they thought. I think that's why it's probably rallying. And it's actually trading up 66 cents here in the pre-market on a dividend cut. It's not very often you see a stock cut the dividend and rally.
Well, it's rallied for now, Dennis. I mean, the day's not over yet. 26, yeah, 26.35 is what we've hit in the pre-market. You are getting a little bit of a pop on this. Yet, if you go to the high back on Friday, 26.20. I'm still not completely convinced that investors like this until you can get above that 26.20 level, and then you might have a little bit of room on the upside, but. Dennis, come on. You always talk about, charts that are going down, and don't try and buy ones that are going down. So I don't want you breaking your rules again.
Yeah, it's difficult here. Looking MT, sorry, my throat there. MTGE 2080. It did the same thing last night. They cut their quarterly dividend from 90 to 80, and the stock is rallying 50 cents too. So we're seeing it in two different stocks here. There's two different mortgage REITs where they actually cut the dividend last night, and both are rallying. Probably again because people thought they might cut it even more. So I don't know. I don't like to go against my rule. I never like to buy stocks that are overly weak. But these things have kind of had a bottom here a week ago, and they have found some support down here, and they are getting life here in the pre-market. And I like it when companies announce kind of bad news and they rally on it.
Yep.
So I am somewhat interested in some of these things here this morning.
Well, you
from
got
the long side.
Yeah, you got stop out points. The low of the move so far for MTGE 1950 got to 1970, 1978. A few times here, 1976. So you are forming good support. You're a buck away, so you're looking at a good risk reward ratio here. If you're saying if the rally's for real. Just keep an eye on Friday's high at 2090. We scraped up against that in the pre-market, so need to clear that, sneak into the 21 handle before the bad news is good news.
We'll bring up a couple other ones that just might have sympathy moves. NLY, Annaly Capital Management, which is another one that has been absolutely murdered. It is trading up just slightly here in the pre-market, but I wouldn't be surprised if that AGNC stays strong and the MTG stays strong. If you start seeing stocks or other mortgage REITs following and getting a rally here in sympathy. MITT, another one here that actually is just bid up a little bit here in the pre-market. You've got IVR, which is another one. There's a ton of them. You're talking there's over 100 of these things.
All these charts look the same now. That's all you need to do.
They all look the same, yeah. But I'm trying to say if you've got a couple of them rallying and looking stronger in the sector, and then it's bad news in the rallying, that might show some sympathy moves into the other ones. So just keep that in mind if you're trading any of these mortgage REITs here today. Upgrades and downgrades. We've got a big one, BlackBerry getting downgraded at Bernstein. They had a good run and a good pop-up yesterday, giving that back here this morning on the Bernstein downgrade.
Ran into resistance, nice round number 15 yesterday, settled up near that area, so many looking for that rally to continue. That 15, if we can get back up there, is going to be a huge number. Wouldn't really be too worried about the stock unless you take out 14.18. Monday and Tuesday's lows only 8 cents apart, 14.18, 14.26. So pretty good support there for BlackBerry, despite the downgrade.
Sprint getting downgraded at Macquarie here this morning. It's trading down about 20 cents. 7.32 is where it closed, trading at 7.10 right now. So if you like these $7 stocks, Sprint getting a little bit beat up here this morning.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't this like in merger talks and everything?
I know, but it's down 22 cents. So
16 mils trading too, huh?
Yo, ton of volume here. Ton of volume here on Sprint.
No take on Sprint.
No take on Sprint. CLF, your favorite stock there, Joel. Cliff Natural Resources. Downgraded at Bank of America. This is a stock that just cannot get its act together. Every time you think it's going to start to rally off of this ridiculous support that we've had
Oh
in
my
17.
gosh.
Oh, the support down here has just been absolutely incredible. Bottom down in April around $17. Again in June in the low 17s. We found a bottom. Been rounding up. It keeps bouncing off and then keeps getting pulled back to that 17.5 level. Getting downgraded here this morning. Are they going to knock it back down to that 17.5 again?
I don't think so. I mean, it's down 35 cents of volume. I mean, you just got to figure, once it sneaks under, sneaks under 18, I mean, you just got those multiple lows, 17.43, 44, 50, 53. I'll look at that as support. Some shorts to bring things in here. I don't see the stock getting killed on this downgrade.
Citigroup downgrading American Eagle Outfitters, which is AEO. Stock is trading down 30 cents here in the pre-market. Actually offered down 40 cents now at 18.75, which would take it below the June 12th low of 18.84. So that looks a little bit significant to me, but I think you still got some support in that area.
Yeah, well, 19 was huge for this thing. 3 days in a row, 18.99 and 19. Trading 15 cents below that. Use that as a resistance point coming up. If it does get a little bit of a rally. Let's see how much we got down. Just spotty trades in the pre-market. So sticking with the short side till it gets above 19. And I look for major support to come in at the May 2nd low of 1861.
General Electric took out that 24 yesterday and just kept rallying all the way up to the next big significant level. We always say use the half and the whole numbers, 24.50. Good 270,000 shares of institutional selling pressure up there in the New York book, and they actually got up to 24.45, and then they took it down a little bit there yesterday. But is this going to be a steady march? You know how I like my 2-day move. Can they press it through that 24.50 today, Joel?
I don't think so. I think that the high freaks will win out for another day here, holding it, keeping it under 24.50. I mean, that's just a huge move. I mean, this is the highest that this stock has traded since October of 2008.
Whoa.
So, yeah. So that's a long time resistance. And I was looking at the monthlies and stuff, and man, there's not a lot of chart points between 24.5 and 26, but with the way, GE moves, that, could take another 6 to 8 months.
Let's talk about this Apple one more time here. This 430 level did have 2 days of almost identical ranges there. Again, here, if I'm just looking at the chart, the range, is that right? 430.36 was the low on Monday. 435.70 the high on Monday. And then the next day,
the low, it missed the lows were 15 cents apart and the highs were about 80 cents apart. But for all practical purposes, the close was right at 432 as well. I mean, if you get traders, looking at the risk reward here, low of the move has been 428.75. Hit that a few days ago. There's your risk reward ratio. But man, look what the market did yesterday, what the SPOOs have done over the last couple days, and this thing just gets up, has a rally, you think it's going to break out, and flops. I mean, it's settled $1.50 off the low of the day, and the SPOOs had a 10, 12 point rally.
There's just no interest in it. There's just no interest, and that's the same thing. That's why the volatility is actually, now it's just being basically traded as a trading vehicle and this bouncing off of this 430. But there is no interest in that stock until they start to say something, on a new product. So I don't know what's going to drive that up eventually. Micron reports earnings here tonight. Stock is trading up 10 more cents ahead of that report. This stock has been on an absolute tear. It was just over $9 at the beginning of May. A month and a half later, we are at $13.85 here this morning. So this has just been an incredible run for MU.
Right, and our news desk came up with some information yesterday that a VP of Research and Development sold a chunk of his holdings, I believe 12.5% of his holdings on Monday in the lower 13 area. So I tell you, it's a sizable sell. I mean, selling into strength here. This chart looks absolutely incredible on the rally mode. So, I mean, I don't have any definitive figures if you're, following insider buying and selling here, and what you can actually derive from this. But it's an interesting note here, going into the earnings announcement.
Yeah, it's always interesting to follow the insiders. I'm not sure if there's, and we've had traders in our firm that have tried to follow insiders before, and I don't know if they've had any long-term success, looking at the filings and selling when the insiders sell or buying, and you're always, trailing them a little bit, obviously, because those filings come out, after the fact, after they've sold the stock. So I don't know if there's a long-term edge there or not from following the insiders. I think sometimes it's just a matter of the stock has been on a tear. The insider's probably looking at this and saying, look, it's up 30% here in the last month. I'm going to lighten my position. I think it
Right.
was lightening it by 12.5%. So I don't know if I put that much weight in it, but it is interesting to follow.
Right, and maybe he's just a technician looking at the July
Yeah.
2007 high of 1420 and looking as a $14 to be resistance.
Let's go overall market thoughts going into the Fed here. Obviously today, what do you think is going to happen? You've already said what you think he's going to say. What do you think the market's response is going to be?
Well, I'm going to let the market response be dictated if it can clear 1649. That's the high, matches yesterday's high. That's your resistance area. So you get a pop above there. You do run into a couple highs in the mid 1650s, but for now, for this morning trading, I'm going to keep an eye on that 1649 level. Coming back on the downside, we are holding the overnight low, 1641 and a quarter. There's not a lot of identifiable support beneath that level, but I just think if we happen to break down below that, I just think people will be, lightening up ahead of the big announcement.
Well, that's our show for today, guys. Have a great trading day. Have fun with the Fed, and we'll be back to analyze it all with you tomorrow morning.